Happy Halloween! We are getting spooky today on Book Break with a collection of the best Gothic literature, and I'm going to dive right in and start with the book that's considered the first ever Gothic novel, and that's The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. So The Castle of Otranto is this fabulous, melodramatic thriller about a princess, a prophecy, a peasant who steals two rival hearts, and a super climactic finish in an underground church. So really everything that you need from a Gothic novel. And Horace Walpole, as well as being the author of that book, also used to live here in the house I'm in today, Strawberry Hill House. So he's the one that transformed it from a couple of cottages into his dream vision of a Gothic castle, complete with pinnacles and battlements. It's absolutely stunning. You should definitely pay it a visit. It's really famous as being Britain's best example of Gothic revival architecture, and I mean, I'm just standing here today in my dream Gothic library. So if that's where the whole genre of Gothic literature started, let's now jump forward to a very modern Gothic tale, The Upstairs Room by Kate Murray-Browne. So this is about a family who buy their dream house, this gorgeous Victorian house, but when they move in, they realise it is not at all what they had hoped for. There is a really eerie atmosphere in the house, they keep finding writing on the walls, and one by one, all of their lives begin to unravel. And the wife, Eleanor, is convinced that it is all being caused by the house, and that the house is actually making her physically ill. And this is just one of my favourite type of spooky books, where it's constantly in question whether or not what's happening is actually supernatural or not, or whether you can find another explanation for it, and there's just enough hints dropped along the way to help you decide for yourself. It really gave me chills reading this one. Now, The Doll Factory by Elizabeth Mcneill is this brilliant Gothic thriller meets romance set in Victorian London in the build-up to the Great Exhibition. And we have two parallel storylines to follow here. There's the story of Iris, who's an aspiring artist who meets Louis Frost, one of the pre-Raphaelite artists, and agrees to model for him in exchange for painting lessons. But then while all of that lovely story of art is going on, we also follow Silas, who's a collector who, after one very brief encounter with Iris, became completely obsessed with her. And it just gets so tense and so gripping as these storylines get closer and closer to meeting, building all the way up to a super dramatic ending. Next up, a Victorian ghost story, The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. So this is about a woman named Elsie who is widowed just weeks into her new marriage. So she suddenly finds herself alone and pregnant, heading to her late husband's country estate. But when she gets there, all the villagers are really hostile to her, the servants are really resentful of her, and she finds herself pretty unhappily holed away in this giant house. Until one day she finds in a room a creepy painted wooden figure that bears an uncanny resemblance to herself. So this is a proper Gothic ghost story, and as it goes along, these wooden figures, which are called silent companions, become a very unwanted haunting presence throughout the book. Do not read this one too late at night. Another one that's been really popular is Malmuth. So this is Sarah Perry's reimagining of a classic Gothic novel, Malmuth the Wanderer from 1820, which is about a man who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for 150 years more on Earth. But in Sarah Perry's version, Malmuth is a woman, this mythological woman who allegedly was doomed to wander the earth alone forever, capturing unhappy souls to steal away. And our main character Helen thinks this is all just a myth that her friend Carell is completely obsessed with, until Carell disappears. So this is a really haunting, atmospheric novel where the scariest monsters of all are actually the ordinary humans. Now, the queen of Gothic historical fiction has to be Kate Morton, and The Clockmaker's Daughter is my absolute favourite of hers. So this is all centred around a manor house called Birchwood Manor and the different people who've lived there through the generations. So we get loads of different timelines, but there's also this narration that threads through it all from The Clockmaker's Daughter, who is this ghostly presence who has been at the house the whole time and oversees everything. And all the different timelines weave together just so perfectly, and the secret of who The Clockmaker's Daughter is when it comes out is just wonderfully haunting. Then my next book is The Familiars by Stacey. So this is about a woman named Fleetwood Shuttleworth, great name by the way, and this was the real name of a real woman, who finds herself pregnant again after none of her previous pregnancies have been successful. And then she reads a doctor's letter that she wasn't supposed to see, warning that she will not survive another pregnancy. Then she meets this midwife named Alice, who promises Fleetwood she can help her deliver a healthy baby, but then Alice is accused of witchcraft. So then we dive into the 1612 witch witch trials, and it's this amazing feminist exploration of how witch hunting was so much at the time actually just woman hunting. And then it's also this really gripping story about Fleetwood's quest to free Alice before it's too late for both of them. Now I've got a book here that isn't actually out until March, but while I'm talking about spooky Gothic literature, I couldn't not mention it. I'm reading it at the moment and I'm absolutely hooked. So while you're in the spooky mood, it might be a good time to pre-order it. This is The Animals at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healy. So this is about a woman who's put in charge of the evacuation of all of the mammal collection from the Natural History Museum to a manor house to keep them safe during World War II. So already we have this fantastic setting, this isolated Gothic manor now filled with taxidermied animals, and the house itself is very sinister. There are rumours about a ghost that haunted the previous lady of the manor, and the mystery running through this is whether or not these rumours are true. I'm really hooked on this one, so definitely worth getting your orders in. And then let's finish off with some classics. So Jane Eyre isn't usually thought of as a Halloween novel, but it's actually got some brilliantly spooky Gothic elements. There's that whole scene where, as a child, Jane is locked in the Red Room, which she thinks is haunted, and that's such a scary atmospheric scene. And then as an adult, Jane Eyre finds herself working as a governess in this seemingly haunted house, where there's a mysterious presence who laughs in the night and attacks the guests, and even starts a fire in one of the bedrooms. And then, of course, the ultimate Gothic Halloween classic is Dracula by Bram Stoker. So this is told through a series of letters and diary entries and newspaper clippings, all piecing together the story of the vampire Count Dracula making his way from Transylvania to England to find new blood and spread the undead curse. So watch out for any trick-or-treaters coming to your door with fangs and capes. Maybe have some garlic to the ready. So I hope you all have amazing Halloweens, and do leave us a pumpkin emoji below and comment with your favourite spooky Gothic books, because it's such a fun genre to read. And of course, do give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button below for new videos every week. Coming up next week, we're talking about fantasy books for fans of his dark materials, and I will also put the link in the description for Strawberry Hill House and Gardens. Definitely come and visit this amazing, unusual building for yourself. See you next time.